I am an artist. I have imagined many fascinating stories and turned them into comics. From children's stories to ones meant for adults, nothing is too difficult for me. However, just last week, I encountered something truly terrifying, and I think I should share it with you now, in the form of a visual story. It all began last Thursday when my mother received a call from a friend. He wanted me to watch over his house for 3 days. So my mother packed my suitcase carefully. I had helped Uncle John with this kind of favor before. Curious, I asked my mother why it seemed urgent. She told me that this time he was going back to his hometown to handle paperwork for selling land to pay off debts. She also warned me to be careful around his son, as he was a gambler and not a good person. Uncle John's house was more than 20 kilometers away from mine. Since I had a lot of free time lately, I considered this trip a short getaway. From what I remembered, Uncle John was not the most pleasant person. He was strict, reserved, and spoke very little. As I stepped inside, I called out to him. The house smelled of fresh paint, as if it had recently been renovated. Glancing around, I saw a few bags of cement and paint buckets, confirming my suspicion. But something felt odd. Most of the paint was unused, as if the renovation was unfinished. Why had Uncle John left for his hometown in such a hurry? Just as I was deep in thought, the door creaked open. Seeing Uncle John, I immediately greeted him. True to his cold nature, he said nothing and simply gestured for me to follow him. As I walked inside, I caught a strange smell. It mixed with the fresh paint and cement, but there was also a faint, foul stench. The house was clean, but it gave me an unsettling feeling. The structure followed an old-fashioned design, making everything seem stiff and rigid. As I followed Uncle John inside, I noticed something odd. It was lunchtime, yet neither his wife nor his son was anywhere in sight. The dining table still had untouched food and 3 bowls set on it. Without a word, Uncle John led me upstairs to the room where I would be staying for 3 days. The house had a strange layout. To reach any room, you had to pass through the main living area and the kitchen. He brought me to my room and told me to stay there, assuring me that I could call him if I needed anything. After that brief instruction, he left immediately. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He didn't seem welcoming at all. Later, I would realize that, at that very moment, Uncle John's wife had been standing outside, staring up at my window. She didn't move, just stood there, watching. I should have noticed something was wrong. That night, I struggled to sleep in the unfamiliar place. Uncle John was set to leave early in the morning, and the next 3 days would feel incredibly long. I tried to push my thoughts aside, but I couldn't ignore how strangely Uncle John and his wife were acting. Just as I was about to drift off, I heard footsteps outside. I assumed they were getting up early to prepare for their trip, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was going on. What truly caught my attention was a noise coming from the yard. I sat still for a moment, then gathered my courage to check what was happening. I walked over to the window and peered outside, putting on my glasses for a clearer view. Strangely, Uncle John's wife was standing in the yard. It was dark, so I couldn't see clearly, but she was completely still. And what was even more unsettling, she was staring directly at my window. I felt uneasy. Why was she standing out there in the middle of the night? Suddenly, Uncle John appeared behind me, making me jump. He motioned for me to stay silent. At that moment, I heard a motorcycle approaching. It came to a stop, and a young man got off. He entered the house. I assumed it was Uncle John's son returning late from a night out. But something was strange. Uncle John remained quiet, keeping his eyes fixed on the second floor, his son's room. Why was he so tense? Why had he asked me to stay silent? The sound of his son's footsteps echoed through the quiet house, sending chills down my spine. I remained motionless, listening as the footsteps descended the stairs. Uncle John and I both held our breath, fearing that he might open our door. But he walked past and went straight into the yard. Instinctively, I turned toward the window. He was indeed outside, but I couldn't tell what he was doing. Suddenly he turned his head and looked directly at me. But of course, he couldn't see anything. Uncle John and I had already ducked down, hiding from view, but I still didn't understand. Why was Uncle John so wary of his own son? Outside, the motorcycle roared to life. His son had left. Uncle John finally placed a hand on my shoulder and told me that everything depended on me now. He warned me to stay away from his son, to escape and never let him catch me. His serious tone sent shivers down my spine. Suddenly I jolted awake. Something had just dripped onto my face. It was just a dream. But why had it felt so real? In the dream, Uncle John had warned me about his son and the ceiling. I clearly remembered his pale face and the fear in his eyes. Half asleep, I felt another drop land on my face. I touched it and realized it smelled horrible. It was thick and slimy. I inspected it closely. A putrid stench overwhelmed me. It smelled like something dead. Then, to my horror, a strange shape began to emerge on the ceiling. More of the foul liquid dripped down. I held my breath against the unbearable stench. I had to check upstairs. Perhaps a leak had sprung from the ongoing renovations. As I cracked the door open, the stench hit me like a wave, making me nearly vomit. Just as I suspected, the area had been recently renovated, but it was still messy. Then, as I connected the pieces, I felt a chill run down my spine. Something terrible had happened here. I bolted out of the house immediately. I called the police. There was something horrifying hidden in that place. When they arrived and searched the scene, they found a decomposing body beneath the floor. It was Uncle John. In the backyard, they dug up another corpse. His wife. The murderer had finally been caught. It was none other than Uncle John's son. He had been a gambling addict, stealing money from home for years. Uncle John had paid his debts multiple times. The night before I arrived, they had argued. His son had demanded he sell the family land to cover his debt. Uncle John refused as it was ancestral land, sacred to their lineage. In a fit of rage, his son had stabbed him and his mother to death. After killing them, he covered up his crime, cleaning the blood, repainting the walls, and hiding Uncle John's body beneath the floor with cement, while burying his mother in the backyard. Justice was served and he faced the consequences. He now lived in deep regret. His gambling addiction had cost him everything. I had lived through this nightmare. I believe Uncle John called me there to uncover the truth. Whether it was a dream or a coincidence, I now know. Ghosts do exist. This terrifying story took place at a high school in the city, where strange incidents were occurring more and more frequently. The entire school was buzzing about a mysterious pill that had surfaced. When taken, it allowed students to stay awake for 3 to 4 days straight without feeling tired. Since its origins were unknown, the pill was banned from being sold openly, forcing students to trade it in secret. Even its usage had to be kept under wraps. Anyone caught taking it would be disciplined by the school. One day, Lily discovered the identity of a seller and secretly made contact, determined to get her hands on the pill. With an overwhelming school workload and preparations for various activities, Lily brought the pills home and invited her friend to try them together. She convinced Anna that pooling their money would make it cheaper. Plus, Anna was in the middle of binge-watching some TV series, so she would be staying up for the next few nights anyway. However, Anna believed that staying up late was already bad for health, let alone staying awake for 3 or 4 days straight. The pill seemed too dangerous. Ignoring her friend's warnings, Lily remained firm in her decision. That night, Anna went to bed early, reminding Lily to be careful since the pill's effects were unverified and could have dangerous side effects. Lily laughed it off, claiming the pill not only kept her awake but also helped regulate her menstrual cycle. She had done her research on the school forums. Since Lily wouldn't listen, Anna gave up trying to convince her. Before going to sleep, she reminded Lily to stay quiet if she planned on staying up. That night, Lily started watching her favorite TV show, confident she could finish her homework right before dawn. Time passed quickly. She alternated between chatting with her boyfriend and binge-watching. The pills really worked. Lily stayed awake for 3 nights straight, finishing tons of assignments and completing 2 full TV series. However, things didn't go as smoothly as she had hoped. By the 5th day, she suddenly felt exhausted. Anna pointed out that no pill could defy nature. Staying awake for days would inevitably take a toll on the body. What Lily feared most had begun. Her face broke out in pimples, and they were spreading fast. Anna explained that sleep deprivation often caused acne, and that Lily had wasted her money on a worthless pill. Ignoring her friend, Lily opened her drawer, grabbed a blackhead remover, and prepared to deal with the pimples. She had struggled with acne before, but thanks to proper skincare, her complexion had recently improved. Yet now she found herself battling breakouts again. Still, she convinced herself that it was just her body's natural reaction and not a side effect of the pills. As she started squeezing her pimples, something strange happened. Just seconds ago, they had been tiny, but suddenly they multiplied and grew larger. When she popped one, it turned out to be abnormally big, shocking her. The massive blackhead left behind a grotesque hole on her face. She flicked the extracted pimple onto her palm. This was the largest blackhead she had ever removed. Suddenly, she realized something horrifying. The pimple was identical in size and shape to the pills she had been taking. A chill ran down her spine. Anna joked that maybe Lily had been consuming the extracted blackheads of other students. Lily froze, growing more uneasy the more she thought about it, but she quickly dismissed it as a baseless joke from Anna. Then, without warning, the pimples on her face started falling off on their own, even though she hadn't touched them. They were growing rapidly and in overwhelming numbers. Panicked, Lily rushed to a mirror. This was the first time she had ever experienced something like this. If she went outside looking like this, she would die of embarrassment. Her face had become horrifyingly disfigured, covered in red, inflamed craters left behind by the falling pimples. Desperate, she turned to Anna for help. She had a school performance today. There was no way she could appear in public looking like this. Lily was both terrified and regretful, begging Anna for a solution, but her friend had no idea what to do. She finally admitted that she should have listened to Anna from the start. Now, she was certain that the pills had caused her condition. Anna was at a loss. No amount of makeup could hide Lily's monstrous face. Suddenly, Lily had an idea. Plastic surgery was the only way to fix this. But where would she get the money? Her eyes fell on the fallen pimples. That's it! They looked exactly like the pills she had bought. She could sell them. Soon, Lily joined the school's underground trading forum for the pills. She continued taking them, allowing her to collect more, and once she had a full bottle, she sold them for a hefty price. The pills quickly spread like wildfire throughout schools. Meanwhile, cosmetic clinics thrived as more students sought treatment. To this day, the mastermind behind the pills remains a mystery.